Within Season 3 of The Gilded Age, there's trouble in paradise for the idyllic couple, which is George and Bertha Russell. Throughout the 3 seasons, they've been a rock, and the couple that everybody would like to be based on through looking at them from the outside. However, what this season has shown us is that there's a crack in their relationship, and it very much seems like George could well be looking to divorce Bertha, and she might look to do the same. As we know, George and Bertha Russell are based on the 2 real-life American socialites, Alva Belmont and William K. Vanderbilt, and their story is out there to read about. So I thought I'd explain what the real George and Bertha's marriage was like and how we can expect to see it unfold within the show. So let's get into it. Here is The Gilded Age Season 3, the real George and Bertha's marriage explained. Just to let you know, this video will contain spoilers. Well, long story short, that both of them ended up getting divorced, but I thought rather than build towards that, I'd tell you up front and then look at how the marriage ultimately got to that point and what the marriage stood for when looking back at it. This marriage was one that was looked back on as one that was pretty much all about growth and development within society and acquiring as much wealth as possible rather than that of love by the end of it. The pair married in 1875, and they were married for around 20 years before they got divorced in 1895. They had 3 children during this time, which is actually different to the TV series because there's obviously only Gladys and Larry. But within the true story, they had Consuelo Vanderbilt, William Vanderbilt II, and Harold Vanderbilt. William came from a background where he was a descendant from one of the richest men in American history, and whilst inheriting the money, he had desires to build businesses, homes, and continue the family success in the entrepreneurial world, rather than climb his way up the social ladder. This was where Alva came into the equation. So, like in the show, their desires and goals in life were quite different. Alva wanted to be loved and remembered and have some kind of legacy amongst her peers, and William just wanted to grow his business. During the time, high society was led by the Astors, as we've seen in the TV series, and this was Alva's main competition when it came to garnering the reputation and looking to elevate hers. However, even though both Alva and William put on a front when they were out in public together not to tarnish the image of the Vanderbilts for Alva's sake during the ascension, behind closed doors, like we're seeing in this season of the show, the marriage was bleeding all of the love that it once had out of it, and things weren't quite what they used to be. When it came to 1895, it was seen as a shock amongst everybody in high society when Alva announced that she was divorcing William, her husband of 20 years. Herself and even her lawyer at the time knew that she'd be ostracized from the high society group that she'd spent so much time over the years investing into to rise to the top. But that kicking out of the group wasn't something that she was willing to allow to stop her from going through with the divorce. She wanted out of that marriage no matter what happened. It was said that William had a mistress whom he was having an affair with, and as we've seen during the Gilded Age TV series with the likes of Aurora, adultery was the only ground in which a woman was able to file for a divorce at the time. It was said that he was known for having these affairs, especially with the Duchess of Manchester, who was Alva's friend. But on the other hand, it has been said that the affair was staged by him so that Alva would be forced to file for divorce, as he was also unhappy during the marriage and didn't want to be ostracized himself. When the news broke, it hit the front page of the New York Times, and Alva received a settlement of what would be between $100 million and $325 million in today's money adjusted to inflation, and also the custody of their children. So she walked away in a very well-off position. However, she was cut from those that she was closest to because during the time, high society prided themselves on having a stable family and a comfortable life, something that Alva no longer had because she didn't have a husband. This wasn't something that stopped Alva though, as it was from here where she started meddling with her daughter, Consuelo's life, and forced her hand into marrying the Duke of Marlborough. This is a story that we've also seen taking place in the show, albeit in a different timeline to what happened to the true events, but it was with this where the introduction of a British noble, somebody whom everybody wanted to meet, ultimately allowed Ava to get back in the room with many of the people that once pushed her to the side. It was also said that her life also thriving after her divorce and being married 1 year later to somebody called Oliver Belmont, which was said to be a happy one, opened the gateway for many other women to self-reflect on their own marriages and see that they were unhappy and start the process of divorce, making it more socially acceptable in high society. This wasn't the case for women not in high society, but it opened the gateway and changed the perception. With regards to William, after he got divorced from Alva, he went on to marry in 1903 to Anne Harriman, whom he was married to until his death in 1920. So realistically, when looking at the marriage of both Alva and William, it wasn't a happy marriage in the slightest. It was one where on the outside it looked like the idyllic couple that were happy, in love, and thriving both in business and society, when in reality, behind closed doors, there were affairs, differences, unhappiness, and the search for a way out on both of their sides. Without being married, Alva probably wouldn't have been able to achieve what she did in rising up the social ranks in high society, because by her being married to him, it gave her passageway into the elite of New York high society. So her life was changed and she was able to achieve what she wanted, despite it not being the happiest of marriages. Will the divorce happen in the show? Well, to be honest, when looking at the direction that the show's going in, I think this is something that's definitely on the horizon. The show pretty much mirrored the true events that happened from Consuelo's story when it came to marrying the Duke, so I don't see why this would be any different. Do I think it will happen before the end of the season with only a couple of episodes left? Most probably not, because there's a load of story that's within the potential divorce of Bertha and George Russell that they could probably get another season out of the drama. All of the signs that are kind of pointing towards this divorce potentially happening in the show have been having the foundations laid down throughout this season. For example, we've seen George growing increasingly frustrated with Bertha as the episodes have gone on, in going behind his back and promising the Duke money, her arranging the marriage for their daughter when she didn't want to marry him, and also Bertha having an opinion on Larry wanting to marry Marian. She's meddling in their families' lives and you can see that it's something that's beginning to bother him. Pair that with the fact that the railroad project hasn't been the smoothest of operations for him, and that's causing stress as well. He's definitely not in the best state of mind with everything that's going on. If you also add into the mix that at the end of episode 5 he said to her that if she went to England she shouldn't expect him to be there when she got back, it showed that George was threatening the idea of leaving her. With the distaste that he's growing towards Bertha, the decline of wanting to be intimate with her, and also the stress of work piling on top of him, I wonder if, like William Vanderbilt, he might end up seeking comfort in somebody else. I'd also say that Bertha might be slightly aware of the fact that divorce might be on the horizon for her, because she was seen to say that she wants to lift the ban on divorced women not being able to attend the Newport Ball. So I'm guessing that although she might be doing that to drive up conversation around Mrs. Astor's daughter attending, which would ultimately give Bertha's name some glow, it might also be because she could look to lay down the foundations of a better life in high society for women that are divorced, because she knows that she might well end up being one. There was also a strange interaction between herself and Merrick at the table where he almost seemed besotted with her, and it was also brought to light how he'd never been married, so I wonder if the show is going to start some kind of romantic spark between the both of them. It's just a theory for now, but I can see the divorce that Alva Belmont and William K. Vanderbilt had being something that does get mirrored in the show in some capacity. So what I will say is it seems like it's going to be a drama-filled final few episodes of the season when witnessing the potential decline of George and Bertha's marriage, which could lead into a new season quite nicely, if the show gets renewed, that is. So, there you have it, The Gilded Age Season 3, The Real George and Bertha's Marriage Explained. If you want to see every episode of The Gilded Age Season 3 being broken down, then check the playlist below. I'm breaking down all of the episodes. Do you think George and Bertha will stay together? Share your thoughts in the comments. As always, thanks for tuning into the video and I'll see you in the next one.